Chapter 3 of Tractate Zevachim continues covering laws of temple offerings. The first Mishnah says, if somebody is disqualified from performing a temple offering for reasons listed at the beginning of Chapter 2, this prohibition would apply to the service of receiving the blood, but they'd still be allowed to slaughter the offering, as most people are generally allowed to slaughter an offering for the temple, whether they're not a Kohen, whether they're a woman, a slave, an impure person, even if the offering has the holier status of kachim offerings. They can slaughter the animal, although an impure person still can't touch the meat. So a disqualified person can invalidate an offering through slaughter by having improper thoughts. If a disqualified person received the blood with improper intents, whether to do it in the wrong time or place, if there's still arterial blood coming from the neck of the animal, somebody else can properly re-receive the blood. If somebody who is properly qualified received the blood and then handed it to a disqualified person, he can then validly hand it to a qualified person who can continue. If somebody received the blood with their right hand and then they put the vessel in their left hand, which is not permitted, they can then just put it back in their right hand. Or if they used a sacred vessel, poured the blood into a non-sacred vessel, they can just pour it back into the sacred vessel. If blood spilled on the floor, they can just regather it. If somebody mistakenly applied blood to the altar ramp instead of the actual altar, or otherwise in the incorrect location, it's invalid, but if there's still arterial blood coming from the animal, they can just redo the service. The Gemara says there's a debate if a disqualified person is even initially allowed to slaughter a temple offering, or whether it's only allowed after the fact, which it debates from verses. It's said to be allowed initially besides for if the slaughter was impure, as it's preferable to slaughter while pure, according to rabbinic law. This is unlike semicha, leaning on the animal, which biblically must be done while pure. Entering the temple courtyard while impure is forbidden, so this concept of slaughtering while impure is physically possible if he did so from outside the temple with a really long knife, while doing smicha from outside isn't allowed, as partially entering the courtyard would still be forbidden. There's variation on this discussion. Some actually say that slaughtering offerings while impure is forbidden biblically, the same as smicha. It discusses further as to whether partially entering the temple courtyard has the same legal status as fully entering the courtyard, and that's debated from additional cases regarding particular forms of impurity. In fact, there's a debate if touching sacrificial food while impure will incur lashes or not, which is based on an interpretation of a verse. This is additionally discussed further. There's also an unrelated debate if somebody offered the limbs of a non-kosher animal on the temple altar as to whether that would incur a penalty of lashes or not. The opinion which says yes is as he holds that it's derived from the implication of a positive statement, as it specifies that a specifically kosher animal can be brought, so evidently there's a penalty of lashes for violating that. The other opinion says there's not a penalty of lashes for this, and they debate further from other cases. It also refutes an opinion that says it's permitted to offer a wild animal that's kosher. Anyways, we had stated that if a disqualified person performs the blood service, a qualified person can redo it with the remaining blood. The remaining blood only has the unusable status of remnants if the blood was used with improper intents. There's variation on this and discussion on some verses. It was necessary to state that a person can hand the blood to an unqualified impure person and then have it handed to a disqualified person, and also that it can be handed back from the left hand to the right hand, as an impure person is still technically qualified in some unique circumstances, unlike by a left hand. And the left hand can uniquely be used by the Yom Kippur service, which wouldn't apply by a non-sacred vessel to a sacred vessel. And that last one was mentioned as non-sacred vessels can become consecrated, unlike the other cases. It discusses the logic behind these cases further. There are additional points in the performance of services in the temple. For instance, it said there was no interposition between the courtyard floor and the Kohanim due to all the blood, as they walked on elevated stones. New Mishnah. If somebody slaughtered an offering with other types of improper intent to eat something which cannot be eaten or to burn a part which shouldn't be burnt, it's a debate if the offering is invalid. If somebody intended to eat or burn the proper part but in an improper time or place, but in an amount under an olive's volume, it's valid. If somebody intended to eat half an olive's volume and burn half an olive's volume in an improper time or place, it's valid, as the eating and burning intents are not combined. If somebody slaughtered an offering with intent to eat an olive's volume of the hide, sediment, bones, sinews, horns, or otherwise with improper time or place, it is valid. And if any of those actually do become pigul, having been brought with improper intent, or were eaten past their set times, or were eaten while impure, there is no penalty of kares. If somebody slaughtered consecrated animals with intent to eat its fetus in an improper location, it's not considered pigul. If somebody slaughtered a turtle dove with intent to eat the eggs in an improper location, it's not considered pigul. Regarding eggs or milk that are inside of the actual animal at the time of slaughter, there's no liability of pigul by them, or for leftovers, or for impurity. The Gemara says, in opinion, if somebody has improper pigul intent for an offering, the fetus is also pigul. If somebody had an improper pigul intent for the fetus, the actual offering is fine. If somebody had pigul intent for a bird's neck sinew, the crop is pigul. If the person had pigul intent for the bird's crop, the neck sinew is fine. If somebody had pigul intent for the sacrificial parts of the bull that are burned, the bull meat is pigul. If the pigul intent was for the bull meat, the sacrificial parts are fine. It brings sources for this opinion, which are rejected. It continues to try to argue sources, and some actually try to refute this whole principle, citing additional cases. New Mishnah. If somebody slaughtered an offering with improper intent to leave its blood or sacrificial parts until the next day, or with intent to take the parts out of the temple courtyard, it's a debate if they're valid. If somebody slaughtered an offering with intent to apply the blood in the incorrect location, it's still valid. Or if somebody slaughtered an offering with intent that it should be eaten by somebody impure or uncircumcised, or that an uncircumcised person should offer it, or with intent to break the bones of the paschal offering, or to eat the paschal offering half raw, or to mix its blood with invalid blood, in all these cases, in spite of these improper intents, the offering is still valid, as the only improper intents that invalidate an offering are to do it in the wrong time or place, or to bring the paschal or chatas offering not for their own sake. The Gemara explains sources for these opinions. There's a related debate if slaughtering a chatas offering in the south side of the temple causes lashes, which has differing opinions on. It also brings a source which implies that if somebody had improper intents that don't invalidate the offering, and then does the offering with actual pigul intent, there is no pigul. It brings particular cases. And that's the end of chapter 3.